Okay, so we are going to continue graphing linear equations and lines. This method is called the intercept method. Okay, so we're going to learn about what is an x and a y intercept. An x-intercept is where y equals 0. So what does a coordinate look like when y equals 0? That would be a second number needs to be 0, and the first number would be something. I don't know. It would depend on what we have. So here's a visual of an x-intercept. It is on the x-axis. It's right on the x-axis, okay? It has no additional height, so it's right on the x-axis. Okay, so why don't we take that info and change it to what is a y-intercept then? So what do you think? A y-intercept would be when x equals 0, and the coordinate will look like this, 0, comma number. Does that make sense? And here's the visual. That's a y-intercept, and it is on the y-axis. So it's very important to remember that what you're finding, the other letter is 0. Okay? So question 1, I want you to draw a line with an x-intercept of 6. So can you give me an x-intercept of 6? Where would you draw me an x-intercept of 6? Did you draw it right there? On the x-axis at 6. And I need a y-intercept of -3. So where would you put -3 on the y-intercept? So I need you to label the coordinates. So this coordinate would be what, comma, what? 6, comma, 0. And then this coordinate would be what, comma, what? 0, comma, -3. Good. And then this is a line, so I'm just connecting them and drawing arrows. Okay, so that's how we're going to learn how to graph lines. We're just going to grab the intercepts. Okay, number 2. We have to figure out the intercepts. So I'm going to get the x-intercept. So what is the definition of an x-intercept? When y equals 0. So did you see what I did? I replaced the y with a 0. I plugged a 0 in for the y. What is 5 times 0? 0. So it's just gone. Look at that. I just didn't write it. It's gone. If anything is 0. And then how do you solve for x here? Divide by 3. So the x-intercept is 10. So where would you like to place that on the drawing? An x-intercept of 10. Way over here to the right. At 10, comma 0 then, right? That's the point? Okay, now let's switch that. So we're going to go, what is the y-intercept? So now I'm going to replace x with a 0. Okay, I've made the 0 switch. So the x got replaced with a 0. 3 times 0 is just 0, gone. So I just have the 5y then. And then I would divide by 5. So y equals 6. So if I was to name that coordinate, it would be 0, 6. Tell me, would this line have a positive or a negative slope when you look at it? Negative slope, right? Okay. So let's go again. X-intercept. So the x-intercept is where y equals 0, right? Okay, so here I was replacing the y value with a 0. And if you're okay, I'm just going to visualize that as not there then, if that's all 0. Okay, so I got an x of 9, so I'm going to draw it. And I'm going to describe the coordinate with a 9, 0 then. Okay, we're going to now go to the y-intercept. So the definition of a y-intercept is where an x is 0. So I replaced the x with a 0. Then I'm really just thinking that's not even there because it's just 0. This one is going to come out to be a negative, right? Does that make sense? So I'd have to divide it by negative 3. So 0, negative 6 is the full coordinate name. So what does my line look like? So that one would end up with a positive slope if I thought about how that was looking, right? It's going up the hill. Okay, we have one more example. Okay, this one is very similar except for there's just one more algebraic step in our isolation. Okay, so let's do our x-intercept, so where y equals 0. Oops, and then I didn't replace my y yet with a 0. So I replaced y with 0, and then basically that's just not there then. Okay, so here's the different stage. How do you solve this algebraically? You actually have to do two maneuvers right now. What and then what? What would I do as my first move to get something alone?
Add both of them by 24.
Add 24 first.
Divide both by 4.
And then divide by 4. Okay, so that was the only extra move we had to do. We had to do more isolation moves. Okay, so I'm plotting that, which is the coordinate 6, 0. Okay, can you try to tackle the y-intercept on your own then? Remember, you're going to have two maneuvers when you isolate. And then when you're done, you can check that we matched our numbers, and then you'll graph it.